I'd like to call a Thursday, July 14th, Nottingham Budget Committee meeting on the order. If I could do introductions. Start over here, please.
Tony Dumas.
Jen Byron.
Carrie Lee.
Jeff Wheeler.
Suzanne Eden.
Donna Danis, Board of Selectmen rep.
Thank you. And in the audience, we have Dr. Gudomsky from the SAU. At this time, we'll do election of the committee chair for the next session. We'll have anyone that's recommendations or motions or anything? Discussions on anyone that would like to do the be chair?
Is it something we have to do tonight, or should we wait until everyone is here so everyone has an opportunity to step up that may want to?
Has this happened in the past? I'm not quite sure. I think
It's always a difficult task.
Right.
But I don't think that there's any reason not to wait. I think you can wait. I think we may have actually done that in the past as well.
Wait a week or wait a
Wait till your
session?
next meeting, yeah. Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think that's fine.
Okay. Does anyone else have issues with that?
No.
So everybody can weigh in? Okay, so we're going to table the election.
Okay.
Electing of the committee chair until the next we have more members of the committee can voice their opinions and or concerns. So in that case, we'll move on to the review of the approval of the meeting minutes. We'll start off with the January 14th, 2016. Can we get a motion to accept?
January 14th, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, motion to accept the minutes from January 14th.
A second?
Second.
Any additions, subtractions, deletions,
Who was
corrections?
that second? Sorry.
That was me.
Sue? Let's see. I think I saw anything on here.
Move that away from you. No, I'm fine, I'm fine. If I have to exit, I can.
I did. I printed them all out, and then I guess my printer must have run out of paper because I'm missing one of them. So, but I did have a couple of January. Which one did you review?
So we were now
Right now,
doing
January
January
14th.
14th,
Yeah.
right.
So,
I remember seeing a spelling error somewhere.
yeah, there was a couple of them.
Yeah.
Page 6. Third paragraph, fourth paragraph down, Ms. Byron stated the school adequacy funding has also decreased, which is not controlled by the control of the school board.
Yeah,
Give me the line number.
There's no, oh,
Line 195?
Or 196, actually.
Yeah,
Or
196, actually, yeah.
All right. This is
And
not
then-
controlled by the school board, so I'm gonna cross out
Right.
Right.
control of, yep.
And then at the end of that sentence also, it says, which also plays a part in the process or reduced revenues. It should be of reduced revenues.
Here's the chair here.
And then next line, 197, the end of the sentence, or the end of that line, there's a is, to consider the fact that decreases seen is outside funding revenues should also mean, it just, the sentence doesn't work somehow.
So we'll take out the word is.
Mr. Carpenter asked the budget committee
Yeah,
to
there
consider the
wasn't
fact that decreases seen outside funding revenues. Yeah, I think you just take out the word is.
January 14th.
Where am I? Line 205.
Yep.
Nottingham spent, it says spend, but Nottingham spent 13,000.
Okay. I'm gonna add the period and 0%, so on the 14,580. Just for consistency.
Okay.
January 14th, yeah. I'm on page 9.
Yeah, right here.
Oh, yeah. The only thing I saw was line 316.
Yep.
It says the Ironwood, comma, the design company. I think you just remove comma and the. Provided by the Ironwood Design Company. And that was it for those particular minutes that I saw anyway.
Anybody else? Any other changes? All in favor of accepting the minutes as amended?
Aye.
All right. Tuesday, done.
I was going to table the discussion for the election of sheriff, and now we have everybody here. We should go back to that and revisit it.
You gonna tell Mishka that we voted him in?
I was waiting for you to.
Yeah. Good one.
So with that, yeah, I think definitely electing the committee chair and so forth, the office locations are important, so before we go on to the next set of minutes, any insider questions or nominations or anything? Anybody wants to be the chair? I myself do not. I started a new job a few months ago, so I'm going to be trying more often than in the past and have less time to do that, so I myself, although I enjoy doing it, may be difficult as well.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm in a position to do that at this point in time. Still learning a lot about the processes and procedures of the town and of the boards and so on. So I think I still have quite a bit to learn. So
I definitely have a lot to learn.
You know what, it's more about running a meeting than it
Yeah.
is about knowing everything, how everything works in the town. It's really just, I mean, the chair doesn't really have any more power than anybody else other
Right.
than
You're just keeping the meeting going
keep the
along.
meeting going.
And that's, you've got plenty of resources to pull back on. I know I talked to Don about procedures a lot, so it's definitely a very small part of it.
And you have a vice chair.
I have a
to-
vice
to
chair as
help.
well.
Donna and I can't do it. so-
Right.
You, huh, Sue?
Is there anyone that would like to do it?
Why are you all looking at me?
It's not that hard. I did it a couple of times. It's really not that hard.
I'm running out of reasons not to do it, so I guess I'd be willing. I would only ask if someone else, who is willing to be a vice chair, be ready to step up for two reasons. Mainly, my work with the UNH Police Department could call me out at any minute if they have an IT crisis that I have to run out the door for, because they are a regional dispatch center. So you may be called upon to fill in as chair, without warning. The other reason, we're working on a project with area police departments that will involve Nottingham, and if Nottingham chooses to become involved later this year, I will be speaking to the board, not as a member, or speaking to the committee not as a member, but as a subject matter expert in the materials related to this project. So I would have to, step away and recuse myself from any votes involving that project and any expenses that result from it. So,
Okay.
apart from that,
Jeff?
I'd like to nominate Tony.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. All in favor of electing Tony as the new chair? Now as the vice chair.
Thanks, Tony.
What was the vote on that? Everybody yes?
Everybody,
Unanimous.
unanimous. Correct.
but that's a
Except for
pop-
Tony said no.
Vice chair.
If no one else wants to, I would accept. But
nominate
I would yield.
Michael.
I would yield to anybody that really had a desire to be that.
Second.
I second.
All in favor?
Opposed?
There it is.
Come on, you've been the chair of vice a number of times,
Want to
haven't
sit
you?
here?
I guess I get the gavel, huh?
Gavel.
Jeff couldn't get out of it fast enough.
Well, I enjoyed doing that. I don't look bored down.
Not only do we play hot potato, but we also play musical chairs.
There you go.
In the budget committee.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to scooch
Sorry,
in.
it's a small room.
Tony, if I may, I would just like to thank Jeff, thank Jeff for his term on the chairmanship role, and I feel he did a fine job.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate it. You all made it easy, so appreciate that as well.
Do you want your notes for? You missed one. Oh, wait, no, those are mine. No, they're not. I got mine right here.
I'd like to change my mind. No.
You could stay.
All right, then, now that that's done, I guess we'll move on to reviewing the meeting minutes from January 21st. Do we have a motion to accept?
Can you get a motion to accept minutes?
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any reviews, comments, questions, corrections?
Yeah, I have one. I don't exactly remember which meetings I sat in on for Mark, but I did January 21, apparently I did, because it says Ms. Danis all over the place.
Did.
But under members present, it still says Mark.
Okay.
So that's my only comment.
I noticed on line 149 and 152, it was left incomplete.
Yep.
And then I question line 177. The next step is for the selectmen to determine how, if, what, and if any additional.
What line is that?
177?
So if we 149. Should that be the town? Eventually the town?
Right.
Nottingham?
Oh, no, if you read it
Oh, I see. Yep.
as it is whole, so the next step is for the selectmen to determine how, if, what, and, take out that second if.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Or the first if.
one of them, yeah.
So how, what, and if any additional committee action will be needed to continue work on the development plan.
Yeah.
So just to make sure that it's clear what committee, I'll put in MPEC, the
Yeah.
board committee, or, yeah. All right.
So 152 though?
Yeah, 149 and 152 was the dots, kind of.
Yeah, my recommendation on 149 is that you just end it after bankruptcy court / trustee.
Okay.
And then the same on 152, I would just leave off legal counsel has told the town.
Okay.
Do you have any other amendments, corrections, comments? No? All right, so do we have a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
Make a motion to accept as amended?
A second?
All in favor of accepting the amended minutes? It's unanimous. And moving on, finally to the meeting minutes from the February 4th, 2016 meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from that meeting?
So moved.
Hmm?
So moved.
So moved. Do I have a second?
Second?
Any comments, corrections, amendments?
Just a spelling, just on line 110, the primary increase, and it says increases, so just remove the S.
Okay.
on page, on line 391. It says to the fund balance, and then for should be removed, so, because right now it says to the fund balance for only for the specific reason listed. To the fund balance only for the specific reason listed, so remove the first for.
Just get that, okay. Line 370. There is the expectation to seek additional should be funds.
Take just a couple more minutes to review this. Do we have any other comments or corrections? That's a no. All right, so do I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
Motion to accept as amended.
Second.
Second. All in favor of accepting the minutes as amended? That's unanimous. All right, moving on. We are now to the second quarter expense review for the town and updates.
So Chris will be walking us through the update.
What's that?
I said Chris Sterndale will be walking us through the update.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for the cozy quarters.
It's quite all right.
Keeps everything simple.
Yeah.
Great AC though.
So you have Q2. We got a few items that are trending over budget, but generally we're in good shape. We're halfway home. Overall picture looks pretty good. Usual second quarter qualifiers apply. We've not finished our road work. Most of our capital purchases are underway. We have a couple months of winter left, so those things apply every July. But overall, I think we're going to be okay for the year. Our biggest cost, as always, is our people. Our payroll picture overall is good. If you include the merit compensation pool and total up all the payroll lines, we're in decent shape. Again, we're helped out by vacancies. We've been down people in recreation and police. Police, right now, we're down 2. So it's not the way we want to save money, but we do save money that way. and that will help us on the benefit lines as well.
Just a clarification, we're not down 2 police officers.
No, we're down admin and
Yeah.
a patrol officer.
Right,
Sorry.
yeah.
Are we looking to replace either of those?
Yeah, both. We're interviewing for both positions in the next 2 weeks. The admin position, I think, will fill pretty quickly. We've got a good pool of applicants, and we'll probably be able to get somebody on board relatively quickly. The patrol officer position, the hiring process is a lot longer, and we won't actually bring them on to the payroll until, if we hire somebody that isn't already an officer, which is what our pool is looking like right now, we gotta put them through the academy first. We'll pay them while they're there, but the next class of the academy won't even start for a couple of months, so.
How does that fit into the budget for paying them to go through the academy for a new hire? Is that factored in, or?
Well, we don't hire an extra person to cover them, so what we're doing is running short an officer. Anytime we don't have any depth in the PD to withstand this, we just run short. There'll be a little bit more overtime in a few places. We just run thin. That's an ongoing challenge for them, not only as we have turnover. Our turnover in the PD is actually pretty low. We've got a lot of senior people. But it only takes one to leave them short. And anytime somebody's out on training, out on vacation, it's that lack of depth is a challenge for them.
Yes.
Are those vacancies relatively new? Because just looking at the PD salary lines, it looks
Yeah.
like they're all 50% or above.
Yeah, the admin position just last Friday
Okay.
was her last day.
Makes sense.
And the patrol officer we lost he finished 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where the
Makes sense. Thank you.
look. That's more of a looking forward savings. The recreation vacancy we had in, I think, March, and just a few weeks ago filled our staffing back up there. So we'll end up well under budget on the recreation payroll lines. Let's see. We had a relatively easy winter. It was warm and there weren't too many storms, so you see that show up in a few places in highway. That's the hired equipment and plowing line. You see the fuel lines are in good shape in highway. And our heat situation's pretty good. Our heat lines are in pretty good shape as well. Other payroll-related things, I touched on benefits. That's a big number. That's, I think, is our single biggest number in here. Line 85 to you. Still labeled Blue Cross Blue Shield, but that's our health insurance. That's actually 7 months worth, not 6, the way we pay those. And the vacancies will help us there too. So that should finish the year all right.
7 months remaining or 7
No,
months
7 months
expended?
paid. 7 months paid, yeah. Also, we, at town meeting last year, we created a contingency fund for our liabilities when people retire or leave employment, any unpaid sick and vacation time. We used to just eat out of the operating budget. That contingency fund's working as it was supposed to. We've got probably 16, 17,000 of that committed already of the 20 that we voted at town meeting. That in prior years would have come out of the operating budget. Now it's going to come out of the fund balance instead. Other general areas, elections, we're going to miss for the year. We still have 2 election days to get through, and I've already used about 3/4 of our payroll budget there. Obviously, two sets of ballots to print, two days of programming machine. We'll be at the school for the general election in November, and we don't know if there's any surprises coming there. I can't imagine they'd be too significant, but overall, I think we're going to miss on elections. In the town hall and other buildings, maintenance and miscellaneous lines, You'll see, we're gonna miss 152. That's demolition of a couple of tax deeded properties. Those came in with, well, asbestos in them that we didn't expect, so
Oh, wow.
we're gonna spend more to get those down.
Is that the one on Freeman
corner,
Hall? And
Yeah, the corner of Freeman Home
Gar-
and Art is one,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's a local homeowner in here that we've owned for a long time.
See the dumpsters out there. on
Yeah,
Freeman
that
Hall,
came this
so-
week, and you'll see progress there at the end of this month, I think. Those, even though the work isn't done, the expenses show up here because we printed the checks, and we're doling out the checks and, as the work progresses, so that full cost is there, the work isn't done yet. We're still nagged by HVAC challenges in this building, plumbing. We did the work that town meeting told us to do on the septic tank here. We still got some nuisance problems with it. It's better, but still a challenge. HVAC system, the heat system in this building, we seem to have to call for help more often than we ought, but it's an ancient system, so.
In terms of the plumbing that came from town meeting for the 5,000 that was allocated for that, how much over and above are we looking at to be able to?
Well, we're not, that 5,000 was sufficient to do the pipe change that we had talked about at town meeting. We actually had to call somebody in a couple weeks later to work on the PD side. We're having similar troubles with it. So I couldn't tell you specifically how much of it is plumbing without digging into the bills, but it's just a nuisance. It's not a big budget buster.
Okay.
It's just one of those things that's gonna creep over, I think, by the time we get to the end of the year. We can get by with it. And we still don't know what it's gonna cost to do the re-roofing projects either. Those are out to bid right now. Those bids are due next week, to do roofing over the PD and the library, so, we don't know where we're gonna end up there. We had a preliminary estimate that we used to create the budget, and we'll see how good that estimate was. We know we'll be close, but we don't know how close. I touched on fuel spending. Prices are low, mild winter. We topped off the tanks in December, so we're in good shape there. Heat's low, so we're in good shape there. I think electric's gonna finish right about on the number. We're just coming into air conditioning season, so it's a little early to know that. So those are I think the big picture things. If you have big or little questions, I can tackle those, or.
The only one that came up, and I don't remember what it was for, there was $15,000 set aside for legal fees or something, and that's been completely expended already?
Would have been legal, would have been, prosecuting?
Prosecuting, that's what it was.
15. Yeah, that's a one-time payment for our prosecuting services. We pay that in one lump
Oh,
sum.
okay, so it's just a flat fee thing, it's not, we're not gonna see another bill, okay.
On row 348, kind of the subtotal of the operating budget, I think there's a formula error, because it says percent remaining 1.2%.
Which row?
Row 348?
Thank you.
348.
Yeah, they're off.
Yeah.
I think that was the increase of the budget from the prior year.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep, I think you're right. 1.2 sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And slightly below that, operating revenue, it says the estimate is 1.489, but then there's a 73,100 difference. Is that a current
No,
overage, or?
that is the change in the budgeted. That 73 is an increase over the prior year. If you look at the last page you have, those are actual revenue numbers, but
Okay.
that, from memory, is an increase in budgeted revenue from the year prior. We don't pay much attention to revenues mid-year. It's
Yeah.
it's
Timing.
uncontrollable. Yeah.
all of the social service allocations are paid out, you do that also in one lump sum?
Yeah, we do that. We wait for the second tax bill revenue to come in. We don't want to, we don't want to borrow to do things like that. So those are in the pipeline now. They go out in mass.
Chris, do you think you're going to see such a huge increase again this year? It looks like we already have for the motor vehicle permit fees.
Yeah, we budgeted an increase, and I didn't look back at where we were mid-year last year, but that feels like a good number. We budgeted conservatively, but had been coming in way over budget on that revenue line for a couple of years, so I'm comfortable hitting that number in the end. Certainly doesn't feel any busier, any less busy next door, so that's a good sign.
How is the online registration and payment for the rec? How is that going?
It's good.
Yeah.
We flipped the switch not long before summer camp got rolling. Courtney loves it, user-friendly. The back end of it's clean. The credit card stuff's all been clean. It's great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Saving time in the office. We're not using QuickBooks and monkeying around with that anymore. It's working well.
Great.
As is the one check operation in the town clerk's office. Credit cards will follow in there before too long. We had to get through a couple steps to get to that point, but that's gone pretty smoothly. We rolled out direct deposit for our employees this year. That's real popular with 80% of them. Other 20% don't know anything to do with it, but that's running really well.
What's the transaction fees for using a credit card for?
For the town clerk?
Yeah.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's going to come in at like 3%, something like that. Those all by law have to be paid by the customer. We don't need those like in a typical
Because it's
merchant
municipal. Yeah.
arrangement.
Yeah.
So it's essentially a surcharge to
Yep.
the user.
Convenience charge.
So
Right.
thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's a 3% to a minimum or something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Are the credit card units, are they all upgraded to the chip readers currently, or are they still the old?
We haven't ordered the actual hardware yet. We're kind of dragging our feet on that. You don't want to do it any earlier than you have to, because you never know what's going to come out. So
Right.
I don't remember that being offered, but I haven't looked at it in a while. But
Your vendor is supposed to offer that to you. And under the PCI compliance regulations, if you have not put in the chip readers as of last November 1st, I believe, any fraud traced back to that unit is the vendor's liability, not the customer's. So it would behoove us just in case, you know.
I will check that before we pull the trigger.
Look into that. But you definitely want to go directly to your vendor for that.
Oh, yeah. We're kind of buying that all from one place. We're not. They're responsible for the whole package. We're not going to be experts on that.
All right. Do we have any other questions or anything for Chris? No? All right, it looks like that's that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
We'll do it all again.
All right, next up to bat, school updates.
Dr. Godomsky
Dr. Godomsky, welcome.
presenting.
Huh?
So Dr. Godomsky presenting for us.
We sent this out electronically, I'm not sure what everybody has or doesn't have. Copy of that sheet, or do you have nothing?
Nothing.
Okay. This is the revenue side.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I don't take out the sound system.
Sounds good. Not in the budget.
I'll be careful. All right, I'll take you through an overview, and feel free to stop me at any point and ask questions. Things are looking really good at the end of the year. I would say that we're probably right around 95% closed out, so these numbers will change a little bit. We're still getting final bills from vendors and getting things tidied up, but it's very close. If you look at the revenue sheet, you'll see that we've got about $97,000 in unanticipated revenue, which is good news. The biggest chunk of that came from LGC, the Health Trust refund at $77,000. So that's the last payment we're going to see there, and also revenue on Medicaid and CAT aid as well. So we're in pretty good shape there. And you'll see our food service, as anticipated, we haven't got quite as much revenue there, and you'll see on the expense side too that we're going to come out probably somewhere in the vicinity of $30,000 as a deficit for our food service program, which was anticipated at the beginning. So again, the revenue side looks good at excess of $97,000. Any questions on the revenue?
So which line item you said for food service, is that the 43 ending in 40?
Well, you've got to cross-reference your food service.
Oh, the total.
The total, so,
25.
the total, and I'll bring it up again when we get to the end of the expense sheet. But the revenue, and then minus the expenses, we're coming out about a $30,000 deficit. But I'll show you that when we get to the expense sheet at the end. On the budget itself, the expense side, I'll take you just through. Most of it is very close to where we anticipated. I'll just take you through page by page quickly and do some of the highlights. If I'm going too fast and you have a question, just let me know. Really, on the first page, the only thing that we've got there that's a little out of the ordinary is the contracted services. You'll see a deficit of $1,500, $1,574. We had some copier overages. We got a new contract with our copy machine, and we're working on that now. But that's what that piece is. I think everything else on the first page is fairly standard. So on page 2. The big thing on page 2 is if you go about 3/4 of the way down, you'll see $11,778 in special ed tuition, non-public elementary. Again, special education is by need. We budget at the time of the budget, the snapshot of the students and the needs that we have, and then obviously over the next 18 months that changes. So this particular time it changed in a financially good direction of $11,700 savings there.
That's line 51, correct?
Yes. On page 3, at the top, you'll see special education came out with a surplus of $30,000. So that was just, some of it's good fiscal management, good programmatic management, and some of it's just luck of the draw with the students that we have and the movement that we have within the district. So that was in good shape. The cost of Medicaid on line 58, we've gone over a little bit on our fee, but if you look on the revenue side of the ledger, our Medicaid was up, our billing was up $31,000 on revenue. So that's just a percentage of what we take in. So that's a good charge right there. On page 4. Really nothing surprising to report on page 4. Page 5, line 102, you've got physical therapy. Again, that's contracted service, and it's contracted out by need. The good news is our need was down this year, so we've got $10,700 in that line that's under expended, which is good.
Let me just ask, what happens to that?
What do you
Like
mean,
going
what
into the
happens
next
to it?
year's budget?
Anything in this budget is, ultimately, that's not expended, gets turned back to taxes.
Okay.
So it's not like we carry anything over. We can't carry
Okay.
anything over in the budget. On page 6, nothing really surprising there. We've got line 130, we've got courses for $5,000 there that were underutilized this year.
Why is that?
We have that same, we had the same thing last year too,
We
right?
did.
Well-
This is courses for the teachers, right?
No, this
No.
particular one is for the curriculum director.
Oh, okay.
In the contract for the curriculum director and the contract director, the contract for your administration, it's a contractual obligation. So we try to budget the contractual obligation. When they don't take courses, then obviously that money is underutilized. But if they choose to take courses, then that money's available.
It was always a question with the principal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing else really on page 6 or 7. Pretty straightforward. On page 8, almost down the bottom on line 192, the same question. Coursework for the line of the principal. That's actually the principal and the assistant principal contractually putting that money in. So it depends annually whether those people are taking courses, but it is a contractual obligation.
Office of the Principal Health Insurance, was there a change in that, or was it just,
There was a change in that. It's changing plans, it's the change in the buyout. I'm not gonna go into individual plans.
Sure, I
but-
understand, yeah.
But it's the buyout and the plans themselves were changed, so you're gonna see a little bit of movement there.
okay.
In row 174, district officers expense, which I think is part of the school board, 2,000 remaining. Is that stipends or is that something else?
No, that's just expenses that they may incur, whether it's going to a training or
Okay.
manage or things like that, so. Nothing to really bring to your attention on page 9. On page 10, line 229, certainly a very advantageous winter for us. I'll take another one just like it. We worked with our company for filling our tanks and trying to get a little bit ahead there, so they were very agreeable. We did lock in at a price, so there was I was a little nervous to start with whether we were going to get charged for some of that underutilized propane. But the company was very reasonable about it and said as long as we're making a good faith effort, because they saw that across the board in their company that, you know, people were underutilizing the ship just because it was a really warm winter, so that's a nice piece there. And then on line 236, special ed transportation elementary, we've got, again, underexpended $4,400 there. That's just a matter of need. We budget for the need that the students have identified for special ed transportation in their IEP at that particular time, and if that goes away, then obviously we don't expend that money.
Yeah, question for you. On line 228, the electricity, is that something that is contracted out as far as the kilowatt hour pricing, or is that just based on what's, is used? Like, do we ever negotiate as far as a price for the whole year from them, or is it just?
No, it's what's used.
Okay.
What's used. We try to take, when we're figuring in things like electricity and propane budget-wise, we try to figure in a running average,
Right.
like a 3-year average, and then but it's not locked in. Not on electricity. And then on page 11, right below line 254 on total food service, that's the number that I was bringing to your attention before, 161,000 in expenses. And then if you look on your revenue sheet again, we're around $123,000. Wait a minute, that's not right. $124,000 in revenue. So again, we're still closing out all of the vendors with that, but it looks like it's going to be right around $32,000 for a deficit in the food service, which is something that we anticipated. So at the end of the day, total elementary cost, if you look a little bit further down that page, $202,000 is what we're looking at for unexpended funds for elementary. And then right below that, you've got tuition Dover, tuition Co-Brown, for a total of $101,000 unexpended there, which comes out to in the vicinity of 6 to 6.5 students. So, that's always a moving target. We've got kids moving in, moving out. We reconcile the bills to make sure that the students are literally down to the day that we're getting charged for move-ins and move-outs, and that's where we're at right there. And on the last page, page 12, you'll come down to the grand total, and you'll see that under expended this year, $302,000, almost $303,000. And couple that with your revenue, you're looking at close to $400,000. So that's the good news. We're still reconciling this, and some more things might be paid out, so that number's going to move a little bit, but with that $302,000, we're looking at getting within 2.8% of the total budget. So, I'll take that any day of the week, coming 18 months out. So that's where we stand. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Where are we at with any of the repairs that were underway at the school, the elementary school?
We had a few things right towards the end of the year that the school board approved to get ahead on a few things. We had $50,000 in the reading program, $4,200 in new carpets, $1,800 for some chairs and furniture, $2,000 for a rug cleaner extractor, our other one is dying, and $2,500 for a snow blower. So those things are getting ahead a little bit. That is reflected in here already.
Those are reflected in
Yeah.
here. Okay.
Yeah, that's reflected in here already. As far as any other projects at the school, we're pretty much caught up on what was approved and what was done. So, we're going to have obviously some future conversations about the units on the roof, the heating and ventilation system, the insulation and parts of the roof that still remains to be done. We had some conversations about I don't know if you know where our propane tank is behind the playground. We had a little issue with a tanker truck getting stuck on our playground because there's been years and years and years of wood chips, and it gets mushy and it just
sinks right in.
doesn't support it very well. So we had to tow it out, but we're in a conversation this summer, and Chris had mentioned that we may be able to utilize some service from the town to put some kind of a firmer base in there so we don't have the same issue over again, because that tank is, it's not in a great place for deliveries, so we need to do some work there. What do you think of other things?
Yeah, well, I think just to update you on what was happening, we did complete blowing in insulation over the student wing. We replaced one of the HVAC systems on the roof, evaluated the others, and determined sort of a plan for them.
We've done room renovations
Right.
in a number of rooms, moving some rooms around to better utilize the space.
Right.
So that was a nice piece.
Yeah, some walls came down, and there's a new kindergarten room. So kind of a recap of all those physical structural changes that we opened the school this year, if you will, in September, with all of those changes.
Was there not an old ice damming issue too?
There was an
that needed
ice
to be
damming issue.
addressed?
Yeah, and that was over that student wing, and so when that was, there were many options that were discussed with that, but essentially, they went up and did insulation, blew that insulation in. I think that was intended to,
Yeah, part of that was,
Yeah.
the thought process was, and what we got for feedback was that there was heat that was ventilating up in there and creating all of
Melting.
the ice dam. So if we insulated it up there and kept the cold on the cold and the heat on
Right.
down the bottom, then we wouldn't have that problem. I'm not sure we got a real good read on it this year. We didn't have any ice dams this
Yeah, right.
year. But I'm not sure I can
Nobody else did.
say that was completely from the insulation.
Right.
We
But
do-
that was something that.
Yeah, I knew it was an outstanding issue.
I think we think air quality's a little better, that coupled with some air conditioners, but those are, I think, following some medical issues as
Yeah.
well. So the other thing we evaluated, had the administration evaluate, is the arsenic mitigation system. Has actually 2 tanks in it, and so we wanted to ensure that that didn't need to be updated, out of schedule or anything, and it was decided that, based on fact, that is still functioning, well, so I think those are the
Just
things.
a really good utilization of staff space, between the building administration and the staff working together to reconfigure. We've used a lot of areas in different ways. We had a custodial storage closet upstairs that we completely renovated and use it into workable space now. Like Sue said, the kindergarten room and a few other areas downstairs that, and the teacher's room.
Yeah, I was gonna say
another
the staff break
couple of-
room was.
Cut that in
couple of
half.
work areas behind that, so just a real good utilization of space.
I think some of the key things there, too, were the fact that we had administrative space, for instance, in special education, toward the back of the room to the tune of maybe almost 200 square feet.
Yeah.
And so when that was pushed over to the back of the teacher's room, now that whole space can be student-centered. And so there were many changes that just brought, we had heard conversations about kids sometimes having services delivered in the hallways here and there, in the stairwells, and so this was intended to open up those spaces and make everything fully utilized. So that second floor piece you're speaking of is all student. Downstairs now is all student. The back half of the teacher's room now becomes some administrative. And the integration of technology, I think when our curriculum director and principal took a look at that, and based on Common Core, the idea is that you're integrating technology into the classrooms and how they're studying, how they're learning. So now that whole technology room can be repurposed and has been, again, towards student services.
Great.
Yeah, really some compliance issues a couple of years ago because we had multiple, not only delivering services to students, but we also had multiple adults in one space, and the confidentiality of conversations and telephone calls and meetings and things, that was an issue, and we've got those taken care of now, which is really nice.
We're in compliance, and we've increased square footage for delivery of services to students and made things a little bit better.
Even down to storage.
Yep.
The locker rooms have been kind of repurposed instead of utilized for stacking chairs.
Yeah, so you can take a shower now in the locker rooms. I mean, those can be used. I think it's maybe the first time since 1996 when the school was built that those are functioning. And there are areas that are now blocked off with grates that you can still put storage in, but those locker rooms are not being used for storage. And the one other thing that was, I think, a big gain was the stage, because the stage had an apparatus in it that I think at one point it was thought it could be movable, but it really wasn't, and so now that has been moved elsewhere, and that stage now can be used for, and you can access that stage from the music area in the back, so that means that your arts, your music, things like that can now integrate that into their services.
And being utilized what it was meant to be utilized for.
So that's a lot of square footage that has come into play, and we're still very tight, but there's been a good, honest effort to try to really use every square foot for students and staff.
Hey, Sue, I have a question back on the budget. So, I mean, give or take, you know, you're projecting a 400,000 surplus. Is the school board, has the school board discussed other things that they may want to do before that number gets finalized?
We can't do anything else at this point. Our books closed June 30th, so we made our decisions. We talked about a variety of things. You've seen the things that we did decide to use that have been integrated into the budget.
Okay.
The largest piece was that around 48,000, so that
Okay.
we can bring the Wonders Reading Program in
Yep.
K-8 and be done.
Okay.
The only other thing that is out there that will need to be decided is that 1.5%. We could potentially look at that once we have firm numbers.
Right, loading of the warrant articles, so.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
So the warrant articles will be loaded in the order in which they were approved and on the warrant, and we will be looking at that amount to see if we think we need a different balance in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that seem right to you
Yep.
as well? Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, our fiscal year ends June 30th, so, you know, at this point in time, we're not spending or approving anything else.
Okay.
Do you know about how much of that surplus is from funds that were guaranteed as part of the bargaining that weren't utilized? For example, there's a line item as far as education that wasn't fully used. There's certain contractually obligated funds that are built into the budget that have to be there.
I don't know off the top of my head, but if you take the 302, we've got tuition of about 100,000 in there, so that's $202,000.
And then 100 in unanticipated revenue.
Yeah, and most of the contractual pieces, I mean, when you look at the salary lines and things, there's not much there, so I wouldn't say contractually, you know, you've got, what did I say, $21,000 in propane and things like that, so
Right.
I don't think it's a large number.
Right.
I don't think it's a large number.
And special education delivered roughly 40 in savings. Your FICA on your teacher salaries delivered another 11.
Right,
So I
but
mean,
if
you're
I
really
look at
talking about.
collective bargaining, contractual obligations,
Yeah.
my guess out of this surplus, there's probably maybe 30,
Yeah.
maybe, I mean,
M-
figuring
probably not.
coursework, some professional development, but it's,
Yeah, you figure, you can, looking at it quickly in that section, 31,000 was left over, and that majority of it looks to be in the FICA
Yep.
and the substitute teacher salaries, and then kind of just retirement and unemployment compensation and workers' comp. Those were the big numbers, I think, that
Yeah.
drove into that 30 or 31.
there's not a lot of, I mean, it's pretty close.
Yeah, we definitely made out as far as the student count and the propane and whatnot, so
Right.
it's great.
How is it that we over budgeted FICA to the extent that we did?
The FICA, which line are you on here?
On
Okay.
page,
There's 11,000 I saw on
It's
page
line
one.
10,
10,
on page
yeah.
1.
I think my understanding is on that is that some, people can change some of their elections, I guess. I mean, that really is, that shouldn't even be driven that much by elections. Yeah,
No,
that
that
should
should be
just
straight off of payroll.
straight off of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
And I think there was conversation about people who, at the last minute, chose to go on spouse's insurance versus
That's what I was
other
thinking,
stuff
yeah,
like
but this is the
that, so-
FICA that would be right,
Yeah,
the
it
set
shouldn't-
standard.
That shouldn't happen on the FICA.
Oh, okay.
Insurance, yes, you're
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah,
right.
I was thinking the same thing just a few minutes ago, so I'm not sure.
I'll find out. I don't know the answer to that.
Their salaries weren't that far over either.
Right.
So,
Well, I know there's
If
gonna
there
be
was-
some, because we
Yeah.
have to figure in, like, for coaches and things like that, same thing with retirement, depending on whether they're a staff member or not a staff member in the retirement system, so I know that's gonna be a little bit different. But the FICA, I'll find out an answer for you.
You know what it might be? If you look, the other numbers are also over, and it could be around the anticipated retirements. It's a possibility.
Wasn't there something about
Oh,
someone
some
was
of
gonna
that is-
retire and then?
Some of that's gonna come from that, because we've got, the contract reads that if you're thinking of retiring, you have to put in by a certain date,
Right.
and we have to budget for that. So if there's a payout for retirement, we have to budget in the FICA too.
Right, and somebody was gonna retire and
And
then
then
chose
they
not
changed it,
to.
right.
So if they don't
Right.
retire, then
It's a surplus.
that's gonna be in here. I know that you've got, under your nurse
Right.
here, you've got that
That's what I was thinking.
situation
Right.
where you've got an extra piece in the salary. So that's gonna account for some of that FICA.
And they have to do that by contract. They have to tell us early, and then they still have the opportunity to say differently, but that, I'm sure that's a piece of it.
Actually, that's probably a large piece of it, because I know that we've got, what did we have last year?
We had 3 or 4 that we thought
That said they
were,
were going to, so we have to budget it in, and then that comes back, so that's a
Right.
piece of it.
and for retirement, I believe we only ended up having 1 individual retire at the end of the year. So there were probably 2 or 3 that did not retire.
Right, so that payout doesn't occur, and then you've got the.
Thanks.
But we can firm
I
those
forgot.
details up, yeah. Yeah, I have to, even myself, I'm thinking first insurance and it doesn't fit, and, yeah, you have to kind of think through it. But I think we could firm that up a little bit with details for you.
And now for the question that comes up every year, are there any outstanding bills, unencumbered funds, anything outstanding that's gonna change these numbers in the next few weeks?
Yes. You've got your encumbrances listed on here already.
Okay.
And there are some outstanding bills that we're still waiting for. But in a, with $302,000 sitting at the end of there, I wouldn't expect that that's gonna change too much. Because like I said, you've got your encumbrances in here that are already calculated into that. So it's just going to be the difference between, the final bills. So that's, like I said, that's probably better than 95% at this point.
So Marjorie knows that she has certain purchase orders that have been executed on, but the vendor, they haven't
Right,
supplied us
either we
yet.
haven't done billed for them yet, or we haven't received the full order yet. If we get partial orders, we won't pay until we get the rest of the stuff. If things are back ordered, those types of things. So, we're just waiting to close out those final purchase orders.
We had a few retirements at the end of the year, so I think we had even put in, I actually just submitted a receipt for June 30th for $25, so it's little things like that. We had some retirement, I think was probably on the order of about $300 for gifts, and those all hit, and had to be accounted for, so I think it's
And we
relatively
purchased in
small.
some books, which was a decent sized ticket item, so, we've got to wait for that whole order to come in, check it in, make sure it's all there, and then we'll close that purchase order out.
All right, do we have any other questions for Dr. Gadomski?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll clean up my mess.
Can you do your extras?
You can have extras.
All right, moving on to other business. What do we have for other business? Do we have any updates on Marston property, Pawtuckaway Lake efforts?
Marston property is underway. They're doing some surveying out there. They have completed they did an aerial survey. And so they're kind of using that data to go back and take a look at the design and confirm the design. So Chris is kind of spearheading that effort with a couple of volunteers, so they are moving forward. On Pawtuckaway, interesting that you asked that question. I think in the past, you may have heard last year that we had a problem with milfoil out on the lake, and it's come back this year. And it is, if you've been on the lake, there's a channel that kind of goes between the north end and the south end of the lake. And that channel is right off of the boat ramp for the state park. So on the state park on Horse Island, it's not Fundy, it's from the state park. So there's a launch right there, and then last year's milfoil was right off of that. The milfoil this year is in the channel. That's right off of that as well. So DES has been out twice to pull the milfoil. That's always a tricky project because once you get in there and start pulling, then the silt stirs up and it's hard to see, and just a tiny little piece like that floating off can cause a big problem. DES has been extremely cooperative and helping to try to do the best that we can to eradicate it.
What about the proactive part of actually someone on site there inspecting before?
Yep, I mean, that's always the goal, right? And we do an excellent job. PLA does an excellent job.
But there's no state responsibility for that? Especially since it's off the state park?
They have not stepped up to that, although I will say that this year, the state park has worked with the PLIA to put kind of like an inspection point, not on that launch, but as cars are coming into the park. It's something we discussed with them in the past. There's logistics, traffic concerns and stuff like that. I don't know how actually that is working, but I know that was something
But is
that they
there a
discussed.
barrier to know that whose liability this ultimately is? I mean, is it not the state's?
It's a matter of opinion. In most towns where you see that they have a problem like this, like Wolfboro on Winnipesaukee, the cost has fallen back to the town. And in most cases, most places, that is the case. And, hence the reason for increasing the amount of money at town meeting last year that we were starting to put aside. Now, I mean, the flip side of that is that we do have a very good relationship with DES. They've been out there a number of times doing work on it. They haven't asked for any payment or any charge or anything like that. Hopefully, it's in their best interest to continue that. In the meantime, all of the residents on the lake are trying to avoid the channel and, not go through it to further aggravate the problem. And as always, the PLIA does a fantastic job staffing and inspecting at Fundy. More volunteers are needed to help at Horse Island and in the park.
How many volunteers do you have now?
I can't answer that. I ran the program up until last year, and we probably had about 4 or 5 paid volunteers, and then I think we had like another 3 or 4 that did volunteers who did Horse Island. But Horse Island, because of the resources we had, we would do Thursday evening, Friday evening, Saturday morning, because it was suggested,
Right.
that those were the
Traffic
times that
right.
people were putting in.
Yeah, you have to train, I mean, it takes some training, and everyone, Dawn had pitched in, training people, and they have other people helping.
Yep. Yeah, so, I mean, like I said, we've always done an excellent job at Fundy. That was our weak spot, at Horse Island, so, yeah, I mean, the PLIA is doing, I think, a great job keeping DES engaged with it. The other thing I did want to raise for, related to the Board of Selectmen is CIP committee. And last year, the board kind of took that on ourselves, whereas prior, we had a separate CIP committee. And we want to go back to that model. And so in doing that, we need a rep from the budget committee, and we need a rep from the school.
We've assigned one.
Who is that?
I know, I said I'd get it to you, I'll get it, I have to go look at the list. It may be, it's either Rosalind, I'm not sure, to be honest
Okay,
with
if
you.
you could get that
But we
to me.
definitely assigned it at our reorg
That'd be
meeting.
great. And if we could get one from the budget committee. Now, your next meeting won't be until,
We're gonna meet the first Wednesday in August.
okay, but budget committee,
When is our
September?
next meeting, Don?
Probably not September, probably.
September, our
Mid-September?
next meeting?
Whenever you want.
Well, you're still on a
mid-September.
quarterly at this
We're in
point.
charge.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
early to
mean,
mid-September.
Yeah, September, late September, early October, depends on
Yeah.
when the courses are.
Mhm.
But you guys have all taken it so far?
I haven't.
Yeah.
Oh, Suzanne, so you'll probably want to go.
So,
We won't know, they either just posted them and haven't notified us yet. or
Will
they
you
haven't
notify
yet
me
posted.
when you-
I will,
okay.
yep.
And is it an option to go again? Because I went 3 years ago, I wouldn't mind
Yeah, I'd
getting
go
a
too.
refresher.
I'd like to go too.
Yep. So just an informal poll, how many of you would think you would like to go again this year? Okay.
They usually have some good, in addition to budget, some
Updates and stuff.
interesting topics and updates.
So, Tony, I'd prefer not to wait until your September meeting to get a rep from this committee. We kind of want to start it sooner rather than later, because, it's supposed to be a tool that informs the budgeting process.
Right.
It also gets really busy as we get into October, November timeframe, so we'd rather kind of get that going
When are you
soon.
looking at starting?
Chris is in the process of getting the worksheets from all of the departments now. So if I could start this like early to mid-August, I'd love to be able to do that.
So your rep last year was Gene Reed. I don't know if he would want to continue.
Is he on the budget committee still?
Yes.
He
Yeah.
is.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, you guys could probably appoint him, and then if he changes his mind.
That's not cool. That's
I don't
not
know,
cool.
I should appoint people when they're not here, but.
I mean, it's a good,
what does it involve?
yeah, I was just gonna say, it's actually a good way to kind of get a feel for all of the various departments in town. And, what their function is and what their anticipated big expenses are over, the next, yeah.
Long-term view.
Yeah.
Right.
So it really involves taking a look at the worksheets that each department, the school does it as well, the police, the fire, taking a look at their worksheets, which would be their requests, essentially, and then just plugging it all in so that we can map out where the expenses are going to be falling.
Projections, right.
Exactly. And we can see kind of where we're going to have tricky spots in terms of a number of significant needs in one year, for example. So it becomes a really good planning tool. So I would say, no more than 4.
There's not that many meetings.
Yeah.
There's an established Excel tool for reporting. The town, again, does all their departments, the town and the school, 2 different districts, so we each come in with our information. I thought it was, you and I did it together. It was,
did.
it can be
I think you're the
fun.
first one that did the spreadsheet, aren't you?
Yeah, we worked on the spreadsheet
Yeah, yeah.
and tried to do, it's pretty interesting, and it's limited too, because it's only capital projects, so it's things
Yeah.
over a certain amount of
Yep.
dollar value and a certain amount of time,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, Sue just mentioned we do, at least in the past, we've met with each of the department heads to just really try to understand, the numbers that they're putting together, so. And we have free food, if that makes somebody.
Now we're talking.
I'll wash your car.
Oh, with those enticements. If nobody else wants it, I'd be happy to volunteer.
Great, excellent.
Anybody else want it?
Anybody else who wants to sit in on some of it just to get
Or
familiar.
serve as an alternate too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
The first year I did it, we did
We did it
we
together.
did it together, 2 people from the budget committee, it was good,
Yeah.
it's fun.
All right, so Michael, thank you.
Sign me
I
up.
will- I'll,
Is that something we should vote on, or?
If
Or
there's
is-
agreement, you don't have to. It's
He volunteered.
really.
Here, here.
You can.
It was,
I second.
all right, then.
All right.
Michael will be our CIP committee rep. You want to make it an agenda item for our next meeting, though, to pick our remaining committee, or decide our remaining committee memberships, which I don't know what they will end up being.
Is that a continuation of the committees that were ongoing before, or?
Some of them may have terminated.
Yeah, Marston Property has terminated, so,
Transportation.
there's the
I
transportation.
think transportation's
Is that still
done,
going?
because it was just
That was
voted on,
school,
right?
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think there might be,
Transportation.
There's a school transport, we had Tony's on that.
I've been doing it,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think that they meet as needed.
Yeah.
But they've made their recommendations, I think, for the coming,
Weren't
year
the
in
bus
September.
routes still up in?
The bus routes will be coming to us. We're looking for those. You may actually see those.
I thought they were just voted on at the last
We,
meeting.
what we voted on at the last meeting was a recommendation on the number of buses for high school. We have 5.
Okay.
And we had 3 going to Dover supporting 76 students projected, and 2 going to Co-Brown supporting 116. So they were looking at changing those routes, and those are documented, and trying to save money on one bus because of the, So that was voted on, and we will be having some informational meetings around that before school starts. And we are waiting for the routes for K to 8.
The what? The routes for?
Bus routes for
K
K
through 8.
K through 8, yeah.
Just,
So it's a standing committee, but it only meets as needed, and Tony is currently the rep for the budget committee.
so just back on committees and Marston, the Marston committee is, it fulfilled its charter. However, we are trying to put together a fundraising committee. And there is one individual in town who is kind of getting involved in pulling that together. But, I'm really hoping that everybody who voted for it at town meeting, digs in and comes out and helps. And we'd love to have people on the fundraising committee.
yeah, ideally people who have some prior experience with doing that. And I think the important thing too is trying to defer as much of the impact as possible, and making sure that we have somebody who knows about getting grants, and knows about getting the funds from other sources other than just doing bake sales and that kind of thing. So
Right.
Yeah, not to
there's-
diminish that, though.
not to
because-
diminish it, no,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean,
exactly.
there's lots of ways to do
Yeah.
that. However, there are other, I guess, more, intricate or difficult ways to get money
Substantial,
that,
Yeah.
if anybody has the experience, come on up.
Or a rich uncle. A rich uncle.
Or a rich
would work,
uncle.
too.
Or a rich uncle, yeah, there you go.
Yes.
So Donna, do you think that you want somebody specifically from the budget committee to be a rep?
No,
on
I don't
that, or-
necessarily think that that's a requirement. that was kind of more of a personal plea.
Right, for everybody to get involved.
Yeah, exactly.
What does the committee consist of right now? You mentioned there's one person. like,
Yeah,
where
so,
are
well,
we?
there's one person who is committed, and I'm trying not to throw out names
Yes,
here,
no,
but
that's fine.
there's one person who has great experience with grants,
Okay.
who has started looking at some great options for us. There's another individual who has stepped up to try to pull together a committee that's going to be focused a little bit more on some of the grassroots types of things. So,
And then you have somebody else who's pulling together, surveyors, getting that
that's on
whole
the
building process
development
pulled
side,
together
yeah.
as well,
yeah,
so.
yeah, there's actually 2
um,
individuals working with
Yeah,
Chris on that.
and so that process is rolling along. Of course, a lot of it is volunteer and pro bono kind of stuff, so it's all at the mercy of whoever's involved. So.
Yep.
Is there anything being done to kind of have more of a outreach for those that are bordering on the perimeters?
Yeah, as far as the volunteers?
No, the residents?
Oh, not at this time, no, no.
Since the subject of grants came up, and I wish I'd have thought of this while Chris was here, but on the subject of the fire department, the quint was voted down. I would ask that, the selectmen engage with the fire chief to pursue some grants, particularly FEMA grants. I mean, he could get matching funds or better for the purchase of that new truck. That wouldn't necessitate, the fire department emptying that fund
Yep.
or coming to the town for additional tax dollars.
Yep.
It's there, it's just gotta be written up and pursued, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the chief has explored some of that in the past. I think his experience may have been that sometimes it's not as easy to get as you think, but I'll definitely raise it again this year.
It's just the cutoff points for all that.
There
yeah.
is that, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But I know he did make the comment that they had not looked into it when he did his presentation. So I think that was part of the concern for a lot of people.
Well, I will raise it again.
It is tough, though, and I don't know that we have any real dedicated, you can do grant administration, but to have dedicated grant writers, people that really know
Yeah.
how to do that. I know at the school, Jude Chauvette, our curriculum director, applied for a couple, and we got one and didn't get the other. And they're not huge dollars, but it's a good path to pursue.
And sometimes they're, like, I know what we're seeing on the Marston side is there's organizations that do a lot of grants, but they're looking for very specific things, like Major League Baseball will do grants, but they won't give grants if you're looking at a multi-purpose field.
Right.
So they want it to be a standalone baseball field and not a
Stadium.
not a multi-purpose. So some of those that you think would be natural sources,
Right.
they're very focused on their missions.
Okay, do we have any other business? No? All right, moving on to roundtable. So let's just go around the room and see who's got what.
Just thank you for offering to be a chair and then the vice chair. Appreciate it. Other than that, that's all I have.
I don't have anything.
I don't, Jackie is actually going to be your rep, I'm her alternate, so I think at your next meeting you'll have Jackie, which would be great, and thank you for being great to work with.
I've got nothing.
I'm good, all set, thank you.
Almost set.
Good.
Always fun to come back and visit the budget committee.
Yeah.
I do anticipate that Tyler will be back in his role for your next meeting. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All right, all in favor?
I forgot that was the last person's
Unanimous.
responsibility.